What's up, YouTube? Cold Ass Ice Princess coming at you from Minnesota. Guys, I just got home from work and I just had something on my mind. Well, today we didn't really work. This is our first day back after the holidays, and we had a lot of different conferences and different meetings and things to attend. And then one part of the day we watched a movie. And here in Minnesota, we have a really large Somali population. So the movie was a documentary called Astray. That's the name of the documentary. It's called Astray. And it's about a Somali young man who's astray. I mean, he's going through a lot of difficulties in life. And it's like he just can't get it right. It's like everything he try to do, he mess up. And it's like, to me, it's like the kid just don't have common sense. They say common sense is not common. And that's really true, because some people could be smart when it comes to books and things like that. But when it comes to everyday life, they have no clue. And so this young kid, it was like, in this documentary, they said they filmed it over 2 weeks. And it was like so much stuff that he went through in just 2 weeks. So it was so funny to me. He get a job, he lose the job. He get a house, he lose the house. Or different things like that going on in the movie. And we've been doing a lot of cultural training at work, which is great for a lot of people who, don't know about different cultures or associate with different cultures. It's good to learn about different cultures and the way they do things and the way they view things. So in the movie, he had gotten a job and he accidentally hit a dog. And so in the Muslim community, they don't really like dogs, or they think that dogs are really filthy animals and you shouldn't have them around. You shouldn't even touch them. And so it just so happens that he didn't really hit the dog because the dog wasn't really injured, but he could have hit the dog. So anyway, so when he was dealing with the dog being homeless, and then he was also dealing with, I don't know if it was CIA or FBI or some woman that was working with him that was giving him cash so that he can be like an informer, or to give them information on young dudes that he knew that possibly had something to do with ISIS or whatever like that. So anyway, he's sleeping wherever he could sleep. And he has this dog with him. And it's like, he don't know the first thing about dogs. The lady who was the FBI person bought the dog some food. And it was like a bag of pig ears, like dogs like to eat. And then he was like, "Do you eat this stuff? Are you a Muslim?" It's like, and then he threw the pig ears away. It was a really good movie. So anyway, while I was sitting there watching the movie, and I saw the little dog, and I thought about my little dog I had as a child. Because when I was little, this dog came to us. And at first it was all ugly and rough and all matted up and everything. But then my mom washed it and cut the hair and cleaned it up and everything. And I named the dog Pierre. And he was a French poodle. That's the first and the last time in my life that I ever had a French poodle. So his name was Pierre, and I loved him. And one day I was walking to school, and Pierre was following me to school. So when I got to school, I was like, "Go back home," And it was a neighborhood dog back then. And the neighborhood bully dog, which was a big German Shepherd or whatever, got Pierre, and he bit most of the side of his body out. He bit him and took a big chunk of his body out of him on the side of his body. And so this is probably back in the 70s, and people back then didn't really do much for dogs like they do nowadays. Nowadays, people really take care of dogs. They take them to the vet and do whatever they got to do, make sure they get their shots and make sure they're clean and da 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 da. But back then, people didn't really take care of dogs. At least not in my family. I mean, the dogs that we had and the dogs that my parents still have to this day, they just be outside in the backyard on the chain. They don't go for walks. They don't go to the doctor. None of that kind of stuff. They just dogs, you know. So anyway, when I came home from school that day and my mom was like, Pierre is injured. And so I know when I looked at him, he had this big hunk of his body that had been bitten out of him by this dog. And so he was on the back porch and nobody did anything. And I was a little kid. I was, I don't know, 3rd grade, something like that, 4th grade, I don't know. So, of course, I didn't know what to do. So, maybe like a week later or so, because this was summertime, and Pierre had got maggots inside of his wound. I mean, you could see the maggots all crawling around in there. And so my mom and dad didn't really know what to do. And then people was telling them, oh, pour gasoline inside the wound. I remember hearing other people. And remember, these are people who were raised up in the South back in the day who probably did a lot of home remedies and mixed up a bunch of stuff to put on their own wounds. So it wasn't like they knew to take him to the doctor or even wanted to spare the money to take him to the doctor. So that went on for a while, and he was suffering, and they didn't know what to do. And I get like a little emotional talking about this because I've never been good with pets up until this day. It's like I want a dog so bad, but it's like maybe something bad will happen to him too. So one day, my dad put me in the car and put Pierre in the car, and he drove far, far out somewhere, I don't know. We're just driving. And then all of a sudden he stopped, and then he just took little Pierre out of the car and walked the distance and put him out of the car, like in this like tall grass. And I just remember Pierre just looking so miserable, and he looked back at me and I looked at him, and it was like, it's like I was just a little kid, but it's like I still remember that pain till today. I still remember his face looking back at me. I still remember how I felt. And it was just a hurting feeling for my dad to just take him and just put him out in a field far away from home all by himself, just to die by himself. And they didn't really talk to me about it or nothing like that. I didn't come from a household where people really talked and explained things to kids. It's just like, this is the way it is, and this is just how it has to be. So, this is crazy because it still hurts, you know. I mean, because it all happened because he followed me to school. And I was like, maybe I should have walked him back home or whatever. But it was like, back in those days, the school bell rang and you had to be in school when the school bell rang. And I didn't think that anything was going to happen to him. So when we got back home, my dad was like, giving my mom some money so she can go get me another dog. And then my mom said, no, I need this money for something else. I'm not buying no dog. And it was like I just stood there and I just felt so helpless. And I didn't say anything because at the time I was just like a person that always keep things inside. I never like let out my feelings or my disappointment, you know. It's like I've always been expected to be the one that just understood, you know. Oh, she understands. She understands. You understand, don't you? You know, and I just look like, but I never was the type of child that would just totally express my feelings or express my pain. And maybe that's why I'm still sad about it to this day. Because in the movie, he wanted to do the same thing with the dog. He wanted to just put the dog out in a field and just leave it there and hope for the best. But it's like part of him, even though he knew that having a dog was not part of his culture, or it's like he'll be looked at differently having a dog in his culture, it's like part of him still fell in love with the dog. And so when the movie ended, it just ended in a weird way. It was like he was taking the dog to the humane society to donate the dog, and then he just sat there and started touching it and petting it. You know, it's like he started coming out of his fear. So I don't know, I just started thinking about things, and it's just funny how stuff can still hurt you even though you're a grown up, you know? It's like certain things that happen in your childhood still hurt you. And I just wanted to express that to you guys, I guess. Just watch what you do around your kids, you know? Watch what you say around your kids, you know? A lot of times we think because we've lived through certain things that our parents did to us, we think our kids can handle it too. But we got to remember that even though they may not speak it out, they're hurting, you know? And just because you had a horrible childhood or you had a horrible life and you made it through all the cussing and all the fighting and all the things that you made it through, that doesn't mean that you can have free will to take your kid through the same thing. You understand what I'm trying to say? And I didn't expect to be sitting here crying like this, but I guess it's just a lot of stuff that I haven't dealt with that I need to deal with. And so anyway, Happy New Year, and I hope all is well out there in YouTube land, and I'm gonna stop crying now, and I don't want to make this video too long, but if you have time to watch the movie, it's a documentary. It was filmed here in Minnesota, and it's called Astray. So as always, grace and peace. Thank you for watching. Bye.